Well, I'm the best corner in the game.
What a run! Marshawn Lynch, get off me!
DK. Hey, it's John Schneider with the Seattle Seahawks.
That's the result you gonna get.
Okay, hey, we're back on the another episode of the HawksZone Rundown with the Rmac and your boy B Coots. And guys, today we have a special guest in the program today. Seahawk legend Lofa Tatupu joining us. Three-time Pro Bowler. He also made a Super Bowl appearance with the Hawks, and also a Seahawk podcast that you guys got to check out because it's not only entertaining as hell, but you got Lofa on there, so he's getting in there and tons of insight with the Hawks and breaks it all down for you. So hey man, Lofa, welcome to the show. We appreciate you coming on here.
Yeah, man, thank you for the intro. I lean towards NFC champion as opposed to,
yeah, you're right.
The new generation with the participation trophy. No one cares that you went to a fucking Super Bowl.
Well, I mean, we know that should have been our Super Bowl, so let's everybody knows what kind of really happened there. So,
Oh, Ryan, it's all love, man. Appreciate you having me, Brett. B Coots, good to see you, brother.
Good to see you, man.
Hey, let's get into it, man. So, you were kind of in a unique situation. You got to play under both Mike and then a little bit with Pete at the end, as far as obviously you play with him at USC. Kind of real quick, what do you think? What were the biggest sort of differences in their style? And for you as a pro, did it matter to you, or did it matter more like, as long as these guys are on board with a winning mentality and a competitive coach, or did you need a certain style of a coach, or did that really matter to you?
That's a great question. Really is. Style, no, you're a professional. Like you show up, do your job, compete, play your ass off, and play to win. I think there's obvious glaring differences between the two. I mean, not just like styles, but even stature. Mike's like 6'5", 6'6", whatever. He's an imposing figure. Pete's like 5'10", whatever he is, and just jumping around, energetic. Mike's very, you always knew what to expect with Mike. Very even keel. So like it's just two totally different styles, but amazing results with both. They're both leaders of men, and they both get the best out of you. Did I prefer a style? I'd have to say, I did prefer Mike's style because the accountability factor. And Mike was all about discipline. And, it said it just even in the records of, I think out of the 4 years I got to play for Mike, I think we were number one in not getting penalized. And you look at Pete's style, I think we've led the league out of his 10 years probably 4 or 5 times, including 2 of the Super Bowl appearances, one a win and then one also a loss. But we led the league in penalties. We had that much talent under Pete. Under Mike, I think he really brought the best out of us. I don't want to say overachieving. We had a lot of good football players. With Pete, I felt like with his dynasty that he had a dynasty. Yeah. He had a mixture of football players at key spots, but he had phenomenal athletes all across the board. I mean, top to bottom, that depth chart was just absolutely stacked. I guess I lean towards the discipline aspect because that's what results in wins, not just the turnover margin. I've always appreciated that Pete's always pressed that issue. Like, hey, this is like, and he'll put the numbers up there on the board for you. Fellas, it correlates to wins. And if even just the last few games, I think Philly, when we beat them, 2 turnovers to none. And Drew Lock did a hell of a job, the backup quarterback pulling that one out. So it's the styles are different, but they both Super Bowl winning coaches. They both belong in the Hall of Fame. It's there's different ways to lead, as long as you're true to yourself. And I think that's what both of them have been.
Absolutely.
So I got a question for you, Lofa. With that being said, because you played in a very unique situation with Mike and then to Pete, because Mike was a very offensive-minded head coach. Pete's a very defensive-minded head coach. So given the talent that this team now has in Seattle this year with, DK, JSN, the 2 running backs, all this offensive talent, not saying that the defense doesn't, do you think the Seahawks should kind of lean more into that, like how when you guys were in like 2005 you had that high flying offense, and kind of give up this ambition of being the LOB again? Like all we ever hear is, oh, we got a couple defensive guys, Witherspoon shows up, we're going to be the LOB 2.0, rather than going and being like what your Seahawks were, which was a complementary defense to a stellar offense.
No, absolutely. And you're right. That's exactly who we were in 2005. We leaned on the number 1 offense, and we were a very opportunistic defense. I feel like this is one of the most balanced teams throughout the NFL. And in that, it's hard to find an identity if you're so balanced, right? One week it's the offense stepping up, the other week it's the defense, sometimes the special teams. But you look around at every other team, like, yes, San Fran has that, but they have the most dynamic offense. The Dolphins have that. They have the most dynamic offense. I feel like the only one that's kind of found their way kind of in between is probably the Cowboys, record-wise anyways. And even the Eagles, they're falling on kind of hard times the last several weeks, trying to find their true identity. Pete's always wanted to run the ball, even when we had 3 Heisman Trophy winners, 2 of them were quarterbacks down at SC when I was there. The run set up the pass, because if you can't run the ball, no linebacker or secondary is biting on the play action. So it goes hand in hand. We haven't been healthy is really what it comes down to, fellas. Like, both of our running backs have missed time, right? Charbonnet and Walker. The O-line, we missed Cross and Lucas for several weeks in the beginning, and I thought we did a good job of holding steady and getting some wins there that could have easily been losses. And then there's been I just don't think there's been steady play up front. Pass protection wise, I think we've done a decent job. Run blocking wise, I don't know if there's a running back that's been hitting the backfield more than K9 or Charbonnet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They're really getting it on their own. There's the Philly game, they opened up a couple of gaps that they were untouched for the first 5, and that led to 20-yard runs, 20-plus explosive runs. But we haven't been healthy. And then so, you see that, it's, and it's a timing thing as a quarterback with Gino, or whether Locke's been in there. And it's been hard to get yards steadily and sustain drives. So without the rhythm, you don't know what to do. But the one thing I will say is, when I watch this offense, the quick screens we keep throwing a ton of them. And okay, throw them to DK, throw them to K9, throw them to Charbonnet, who we saw rip a 60-yarder. Even Bobo, I don't mind. But to Lockett and JSN, and this is nothing against them, it doesn't look like they want to fight for extra yards. I get it. They're smaller guys. So the wildest thing is that we keep throwing the quick screen at JSN, and it's been moderately successful. It has not been like, oh, yeah, that's easy. This is the easy fix for when the run game's stalling. But I just think we're throwing to the wrong guys. And I think if we just change that opportunity, we'll see a lot of success. And then everybody said that JSN was just intermediate kind of route runner, and he eats up zone. Anytime I saw him go outside one-on-one, there's nobody that can stop him. And so you see the one-handed catch against the Niners, you see the game winner against the Eagles. There's all these plays that tell you, like, okay, the report on him coming out as just the slot is wrong. And so maybe it might be time to flip roles with him and Locke, and because Locke can eat up the zone all day, every day. And then you take the catch and fall down, whatever. But outside, we need we need some real deep threats to go along with DK.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah, that's a lot of good points. I agree with you on the screen game for sure, man. Like, I, here's the thing about DK. I love DK Metcalf. Like, I think he's got the potential to be one of the best at his position. And sometimes, I don't know what you think, but sometimes the Seahawks just maybe don't put him in that best position all the time. I mean, we see when he goes off against this year against Dallas and then played like a grown man on that last drive in Philly before JSN capped it off. I just feel like he should just, oh man, like he just needs the football in his hands, like not just fade routes. Like you said,
Yeah.
set a screen up for him and let him go get 9 or 10 until they can adjust. And then, like you said, I agree with you on JSN. Like I think he's emerging as their number 2 really quickly. And then, like you said, let Tyler do his thing across the middle, fall down. But I mean, JSN is showing nothing but amazing play. But yeah, what's your thought on DK, man? Because I think he could be one of the best. Like throw him in the same sense as the AJ Browns. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I oh, absolutely. But it's more so the routes that he's getting.
Mm,
I'm not going to say he's not a start and stop guy, but when he's in motion, he's hard to stop,
mm,
is what I'm getting at. So slants have turned into like 15, 30-yard gains. The fade route, I don't know if there's many in the league that are as good at attacking the ball in the air and high pointing it. So it's like I think it's just coming down to schematically, okay, what are we asking him to do? Because when you ask him to sit in the hook and find the zone, okay, it does take him a second to start and stop. But once he starts, you can't stop him. So just keep him in motion. So keep him on the slant, keep him on a wheel route where he's 6'3", 240.
yeah.
Just like you said, even with the quick screen, I'd have that quick screen. He's motioning, he starts outside, he motions in to attack the ball, and then he picks his seam. Who wants to step in front of that? Show me somebody that wants to continually step in front of that and stop that. There's only a couple linebackers, never mind secondary, that are willing to do that.
Well, so real quick, why do you think that is then? Why do you think they continue the fade route more than anything? And they've slowly seemed to throw a few things in there, but is there a reason for it that we're not seeing, you think?
No, it's just they haven't found the rhythm. And I think a lot of it goes back to the health of the O-line and like how much time do I have? And like when that's in the back of the quarterback's mind, whether it's Gino or Locke, the one thing I did think that opened up the offense was when Locke got in there against San Fran, against that touchdown he threw to DK. Should have been picked off. DK came with it. Like, I mean, that guy was all over him. It was a good throw. It was where the guy couldn't catch it. I don't know how he didn't catch it.
Yeah.
But then the other one in the 2-minute drill against the Eagles to come back and win it, double cover, the safety's coming over the top. There's a corner right underneath. Locke dropped it right in there. I think that opened up more possible. Like, I think now Gino's like, you know what? If he's 1-on-1, even if he's 2-on-1, if I think I can fit it in there, I'm going to go for it.
Mm-hmm.
So when we get down to against the Titans and we see it on the goal line, he looked over. He's like, yeah, you're getting it. And he came up with that one-handed, ended up double clutching it, toe tap, and got the touchdown. So those opportunities, that's the most important part is like, because we've seen games where, okay, there was that one game, I forget who, might have been the Niners the first time. We just weren't giving him the routes he needed. Yeah. It was, what was it, 9 or 10 targets? He had 3 catches, something like that.
Yeah, and they were all vertical routes. There was nothing inside that broke inside for DK to use his size.
Just give him the slant. Just that even if he just catches a slant at 5 yards, he's falling forward for 2 more. That's 7. Okay, so there's no one that can consistently stop that. I don't without pass interference. And that's the thing is I don't want to say play for the flags, but when you have a big physical receiver like that, Terrell Owens, like all the greats that I played against, it's even if they're not coming up with the ball, the opportunities thrown their way create the problems for the defense where like we would just like, all right, fuck it, we got to double cover these guys.
Well, and for me, what drives me a bit nuts with the Seahawks offense and DK in particular is you have such a physically unique receiver yet he's always primarily lined up outside. Like you were saying, we move Lockett inside. Get DK matched up on a safety or a linebacker. What's linebacker's going to run with him down the seam or run an over route with him and cover him from one side to the other in the seam? Like it boggles my mind as why you wouldn't move him around. Like you look at like what you were saying about Miami and San Francisco, Debo and Hill and Waddle are always moving around the offense. They're never lined up in the same spot every time. And it just drives me nuts because I'm like, oh, there's DK at the bottom of the screen or he's at the top of the screen. And it limits your route running and what a defense is going to expect you to do. So move him around, put him inside, let him motion down the line and bubble out into a wheel up the sideline. Like do some different creative things. And I just find we get so stagnant with our offense this year. And with Waldron, it's been driving me nuts.
Well, okay. And Shane, it's still what? This is his
third year.
Yeah, third year as the OC. So he's still young in his coordinating duties and career. And so he's learning like a lot of them do the hard way, like, oh, the book's out on what I like to do and how I like to approach. So now it's time to pivot and add some wrinkles. I don't really have a problem with like what he's called or done. I really think injury, and I hate to keep going back to it, but it plays such a big role. I know as a player, never mind as also as a coach, like how detrimental that is to your success. You need to have your best players, but then they also need to be playing well to win in this league. So, and I mean, you look around the league, and even San Fran, when they went on that 3-game losing streak, they only missed 2 guys, Debo and Trent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that was a totally different team for 3 weeks. And so, it sucks, and it's not an excuse. It's just kind of bringing the facts to light. When you're not healthy, it's tough to get the rhythm. One thing I'd like to see differently is we kind of stay on double teams from the trenches, offensive line standpoint. We don't ever work up to the second level, and it's just, I'm telling you. So watch San Fran, watch Philly, watch Miami. Everybody that not just the zone scheme, but they have it kind of figured out where, okay, that guy is too far for me to even reach. I'm not going to chip. I'm just going to go straight up to the linebacker. That creates another crease. That creates opportunity. You watch it with all those lines I talked about. McCaffrey had 3 different holes to pick from on his first few runs against us. And then the wild part is he had nowhere to go on his 2 touchdown runs. And he found a crease, hesitated, hit a juke step. He did what he always does. But the other ones, especially like the one in San Fran, first play of the game, 70 yards. He had three. He had the front side, outside, cutback, and then second cutback. One of us can get 10 yards from that. And I'm not even shitting you right now. So what do you think one of the best athletes in the world is going to do with that?
Yeah.
70 yards.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see that, because we're not really owning the line of scrimmage when we double team and stay on the doubles. And just as a player, I knew it was always a pain in the ass. So when those guys work up quick, the offensive line, I used to tell my defensive line, hey, you better fucking win front side, because I'm going to juke and I'm going to cut back right to where the running back should cut back. And that's, 9 out of 10 times a good running back's going to cut back to that lane. He's not going to stay front side with it. As soon as he sees space, he's going to eat it up.
So speaking of that, and kind of what you were talking about there, Lofa, about the double teams and such with the O-line, flip that to the defense with Bobby and Jordan, and I guess even Devin now, because Devin's getting a run now with Jamal being out. Do you think there's going to be 2 vacant linebacker spots there next year, or do you bring one of them back? And also, with the way the NFL is now, from when you played, is the linebacker position still as premier as it was like when you were in the league with like Ray Lewis and Urlacher and all those guys? Because the NFL is such a lateral game now and vertical with the passing game, does your linebacker position demand as much as it did back when you were playing in comparison?
Yeah, that's a good question. Both of them. I would have killed to play in today's game, even though you're not allowed to hit anybody anymore. But like back when I was playing, it was all fucking 9-on-7, just straight run. And I mean, I was one of the smaller guys at 240.
Right.
So I would have killed for just pass attack. Like I would have loved that. But it just depends. Like the game's always won in the trenches. And you go back and you look at the years I had, the great years that Urlacher and Ray Lewis had. Just go look at the trenches and look what was in there. It was some fucking savages.
Mhm.
And like that's what, and I don't care what any linebacker says, that's what makes you. Like, I don't care how good you are. If you don't have something up front, you're in trouble. Just like a running back. If you don't have something up front, I mean, maybe Barry Sanders. That might be the one guy that could say, you know what, I did some shit on my own. But other than him, like you need help, man. No one does it alone. So, but is the market's obviously not as high. It's almost getting treated like the running back.
Yeah.
And I think because you're even seeing some teams use linebacker by committee, like, oh, first and second down, you all got to play special teams, but first and second down, these guys are going, third down, or when we know it's obvious passing down, we're going to put the smaller, faster guy in. I actually consulted with the Hawks this past year, and I was looking at several prospects for the draft, and like a heavy one. How much do you think a heavy linebacker would weigh these days?
I'd say like 220, 230.
230.
Yeah.
Was considered a heavy guy.
Wow.
Holy shit. I was told I was tiny at 240. Like, so times change, right? So yeah, you definitely have someone that can run and hit like that. Those are the requirements of the position. I think, you always have to lean with the trenches though. So I've always said this much about the position, and I take into consideration that I played linebacker. But if you don't rush the fucking passer, I can find a dozen of you here, a dime a dozen.
Right.
But so what I do love about Brooksy and Bobby, they can rush the passer.
Right.
And so I think, just using them to their strengths is really what we need to do, more so than putting them in coverage. And Hurt knows that, and he's done it. It's just tough. You got all the free agent acquisitions, whether it's Draymond or Leonard at the trade deadline, and a bunch of young DNs that are high picks, Mafe, second round. Chenna's hurt, but then Derek Hall, second round. I mean, you've got the pieces where we shouldn't have to send an extra man to pressure. So it puts you in a tough spot, right? Now, to answer your question, do I think there'll be two new guys next year? I don't know. I just, the market being what it is, I don't know if Bobby will take the generous deal. Like it was $7 million. I know it's a lot of money. That was still generous on his part to accept it. And for all that he does in terms of leadership and doing things right and sending the message from Pete and Clint Hurt down to the rest of the guys, that's not a lot of money for those duties. I'm just going to be honest.
Yeah.
Especially today, you see other guys still, I think, there's a couple guys, maybe 5, there's probably like 7 or 8 now higher paid than him. This is the first ballot Hall of Fame we're talking about.
Right.
And so I just, I don't know if he'll be as generous for everything he's done, and nor should he. I mean, he's going into year 12 or 13. Like
13
the guy's
next
given
year.
us everything. He's given us everything and then some. Never mind what he also does in the community off the field. So that'll be up, for discussion. And then Brooksy, well, I mean, he's coming off a great year statistically. He keeps improving, even despite the injury. He looks faster than he was before the injury, which is crazy. And his ceiling's always been incredibly high. He's just got some little details he used to work on in coverage. And I think he'll be one of the better linebackers in the league. But it comes down to addressing needs. And are those needs more pressing on offense, on defense? I don't know, but I don't see where else we'd spend the money.
That leads me to a follow-up, Lofa. So if we were to keep those two, if we were to keep Bobby and Brooks and pay Bobby a little bit more, like you said, because of what the deal he was, do you think that means there is a good chance that there's going to be some money that gets cut out of the safety room there with Jamal and Quandre? Because like Julian's played unreal these last 2 games now that he's gotten into being a starter with that secondary. And then on top of that, he seems to have elevated Quandre's play, because prior to that, Quandre looked like he was even struggling playing with Jamal. So do you think that's maybe where that money for a re-sign of Brooks and a re-sign of Bobby comes from, is that safety room?
Yeah, most likely, yes, that's where it comes from. And Quandre is one of the best football players we have. And so I was wondering if he was still fully back. Even last year, was wondering if he was still fully trusting his leg that he broke from the year before.
Yep.
But he's our best in the deep third. He's our best in the hook. Like, it does best in the flats. Doesn't matter where you put him. He's our best football player instinctually, I would say, outside of Witherspoon. Now he has really come on and shown some unbelievable skill and athleticism. That's what a 5th overall should look like. He reminds me of a young Rondé Barber. I
didn't think of that comp. That's a really good comp, actually.
You look at his stats: sacks, interceptions, forced fumbles, fumbles recovered, pass breakups, go outside, come back inside, play nickel. Him, Antoine Winfield's probably another good one. But those are guys that, I mean, Rondé, I'm not going to say underappreciated, but I always thought he was one of the best just football players. And now he's finally made the Hall of Fame, you know? And Winfield, I bet you if you look at his numbers, I mean, they're probably Hall of Fame worthy too in terms of forced fumbles, sacks, interceptions. But so, you know, Quandre, I don't know what everybody has left on their deal, him or Jamal. Just the recent Jamal not playing and then just leaving the game. It's hard for me to talk. I don't like to talk about things that I don't know about.
Yeah.
So I don't even know what went on when he didn't get activated for that game against Philly and then left. Julian, I'll say this much about him. Okay, they signed him to a multi-year deal, and he wore the captain patch for the Giants. Now, the reason the Giants are having to struggle is because they let captains leave their what are you doing?
So that's a whole other question into itself, is that organization.
And I think he's a hell of a coach, but I just, how do you let that guy leave? And I thought it was a hell of a pickup by John. And you know, just like Leonard Williams was. I mean, that guy's been playing outstanding since he got here. But I think what I worry about for Jamal, and this is me just as going into my player's mind more so than personnel or fan, like what should we do with him? If I were to have an honest talk with him, and I'll probably reach out to him because I care about him because of everything he's given us. I mean, every time he goes out there, he puts his heart on the line, man. Like there ain't many I've seen in this game throughout the history play as hard as that guy plays. And that's why the injuries happen. Like they happen. But I would say, hey, there's been a lot of guys that have had injuries or have had struggles with injuries that have found a new home at linebacker. Now, I know he's not going to want to hear this, but I promise you move him to linebacker, just like Mark Barron, who played for the Rams, Phillips, who's the guy, Jabril Peppers, like all these guys, because – and like, it sounds like disrespect to the player. This is how like I'm trying to get back into the player's mind. It's like, why the fuck would I move my position? You know, like, you know, I'm still that dude. No, it's just you can be special at this spot. And you know, even when Deion Grant, he was in like year 10 or 11, he left us. He was really pretty much a nickel linebacker for the Giants that won the Super Bowl. He wasn't a full-time safety. But and even Antrell Roll, when he left corner and went to safety, who was it last week for the Steelers played his first game at safety. Patrick
Oh,
Peterson
yeah.
gets an
Right,
interception.
right.
Patrick Peterson might play another 5 fucking years now, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like,
No, for real.
yeah.
because he takes care of himself. He's very, intelligent in terms of not just instinctual, but he's just a great athlete. I wouldn't put it past Pat Pete to play 5 more years.
As a safety, yeah.
Wild, right? But so can you embrace that role and just accept it? I think Jamal still has a lot of football left in him if he's willing to embrace that role.
Well, and like you said, when you were doing your consulting, like the linebacker role, heavy is considered 230. Jamal's like 225. He's almost what you ideally look for a linebacker coming out of college now in his size.
And as a linebacker, he can fucking fly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
He'll fly as a linebacker.
Yeah,
Which would
no,
be an interesting, situation. But the thing, so speaking, Lofa, about the how you said you didn't know the contractual thing,
Yeah.
Jamal's and Quandre combined are due 40 million combined next year in that room alone. That's not including Julian or any of the other guys, like just those two alone. And Jamal's due, I think it's 28.
Okay.
So
Is-
like
How much
that's
is that? Well, how much of it's guaranteed? What's dead cap? What are the ramifications of like?
so if they cut
you know,
him.
post-
So speaking on it, because we actually did this the other day. Here, I'll just pull it up for you while I'm sitting here. But it was basically if we cut Quandre, it doesn't really do anything. It just keeps it kind of mainstay. It's like an 11 million dead cap hit with 10 million in savings for his deal. But Jamal is the other big thing because with Jamal, last I checked, if we cut him post June 1st for the 2024 season, so next year, if we cut him pre, Jamal's worth 20 in dead cap and we only save 6. And if you cut him post June 1st, the lovely post June 1st, you get 10 million in savings or 16 million in savings, 10 million in dead cap.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and then that's, this is what off season's for, is like, you have conversations with other teams after the combine and, hey, what's your interest level in so-and-so. But yeah, tough decisions are about to be made, fellas. There's no doubt about that. It happens every year. And so, we'll see what happens.
hey, Lofa, I want to kind of keep it within this season right now because we're still in it. I know a lot of people that we jump around, we talk a lot of off season and decisions because we see the trajectory of this team and we there's a lot of young talent on it. Like you said, guys are Witherspoon, like we both agree, like, man, like they smoked that traffic. I don't even care about the name Jalen Carter anymore, right? Like I just, even though we didn't think we needed a corner, this guy, the fact that he got in the nickels, then he picked it up so quick. It's like this dude is just going to keep growing. What do you think? Like, obviously, we were all excited about last year, 9-8, going head to head with the Niners in the first half, and like anything, whatever happened last year was awesome, right? So now the expectations got really big this year. Like you heard numbers of 12 wins, whatever. Like they were just going to run. Sometimes you jump ahead a bit, right?
I think I had us at 13 wins.
I was a
yeah.
12-win guy.
I was around 12 now. And sometimes you get a little excited, right, as a fan, and just you think, hey, we got weapons all over the place. Where do you see the trajectory? Do you still see it going in the right direction? Like, it looks like we got a really good chance of making the playoffs now. So, and like, anything can happen at that point. But, do you like the way, like you mentioned injuries, so it's, half the season that line hasn't even been together. Do you like the direction you see kind of moving forward in these last few games, the last 2 wins? Kind of what are your thoughts on just the current situation and how this team's just going to kind of finish and kind of go into the next season? Like we got some nice building blocks here. And
well, Ryan, I'm glad you asked that question. If you listen to the Take 12 podcast, you would know that I said if we get past Philly, we're making the playoffs.
Right.
I firmly believe that the Rams would drop 1 or 2 of the remaining. They still look good, but I thought them or it was Minnesota.
Minnesota.
We needed them or Minnesota. The Rams scared me just because of the head-to-head matchup, and they swept us, right?
Right.
So it sucks to be in the position of like, oh, well, we need help. Like, even if we do what we need to do, we need help. And thank God the fucking Lions are our saviors the last 2 years.
Yeah.
They beat Green Bay last game of the season, and they just handed us a gift. You should need no more motivation. And I know that the boys in that locker room and those coaches, they don't need any more motivation than to go out there and handle their own business against Pittsburgh. And then we'll worry about Arizona when we get down there.
Right.
But this one right in front of us is the biggest, as it always is. And so, and then, perspective going forward to the future, John's going to do his thing in the draft. Can we stay healthy? And I'm talking like, you look at all, the misses, like everybody's like, oh, that guy sucked. I heard it, even with guys that I played with, like all the fans and like the media, right? They just, but, Rashard Penny got hurt. Chris Carson got hurt. And then Chris was a 6th or 7th round pick that became like our cornerstone, the guy we've been looking for since Marshawn. So we thought Rashad too, but Rashad ACL, like, so it's just like Darrell Taylor's been hurt. We didn't see Carroll until last year, and he got 9.5 sacks in like part-time. LJ Collier was never healthy, the poor guy. It's such a telling tale for all of us former players. I didn't miss a fucking practice rep until my 3rd year. Just fucking broke my thumb, bone bruise in the knee that I got drained for fucking like 10 weeks. Like, it just shit falls apart, right? You don't know what's going to happen. But I feel like they always find undrafted gems and guys that can, play the part. And so, even Mike Jack, like, that guy's outstanding. I don't know. Was Mike? Does anybody know? Can you pull up B Coots? Can you pull up your little?
Yeah, I can do that. What do you want me to pull up, Lofa?
I don't think Mike Jackson got drafted. Was he undrafted?
No, I don't believe he did. Let me pull it up here. He's out of SC. I know that, but I don't think he was. I think he's another undrafted.
He was Miami.
Let's see here, Mike Jack. Here we
Was he
go.
Miami?
Pulling it up right now.
But yeah, touching on Mike, like, the dude's just a baller, like a gamer. And that's what I love about him too, because he sort of lost the starting job to obviously Devin, but he's a true professional, right? He comes in and he knows, hey, I'm gonna get my time, and all he does is goes out and does his job. Right.
So what I saw, like I said, I was with them for the draft process and all of off season. Reek hurt his knee. He needed a procedure. He needed a scope or something. And so he wasn't healthy he missed like all the camp. And then I'm not going to say they rushed him back. He rushed himself back and he got on the field, and I don't know if he was healthy. So, and then he's got the shoulder issue too. So it's like, in that time, yeah, Witherspoon proved to be that dude. Needs to be one of those stars. Put Mike Jack or even, Trey. And I love Trey. It's just there's a couple times he's too aggressive. Yeah. I ran a route against Trey and he damn near knocked me out. Like, I was just in walkthrough. I was trying to run it. I was like, you go do cards. Cause like I said, I was helping out. And he's heavy-handed, he's tough, and he's quick twitch. And I was like, I went to catch the ball, and like he went to punch and just hit me in the jaw. I was like, God damn, Trey.
Yeah. What?
But you love that competitive spirit. But we have guys that can play there, and then we haven't even seen fully what Kobe can do.
No.
That's another guy.
Well, and that's the thing. They moved him to safety this training camp.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, with time, he's a great football player. I bet you he could be a great safety. Mike Jack, I'm telling you, 4 or 5 years from now, when he slows down, you move him to safety because he's a smart player and has vision. I bet you he'll be a dynamite safety.
So he was a 5th round special, Lofa, from when he got picked by Dallas in 2019.
But by Dallas, not by us.
No, by Dallas. So he went to Dallas. Got cut by Dallas, ended up in Detroit to New England, and then from New England ended up in Seattle.
Wow. Yeah. He's a fighter.
Yep.
He's a fighter, man. And he came out running a 4.3. He's legit. And he's 200 plus pounds, and he'll hit. He's the king of pop is what I like to call him.
Yeah. No, when he showed up, I was like, "Ooh, Mike Jack," and then you didn't really know where he came from, right? And then
Yeah,
just from day one last year, just I mean, just solid, right? Just kind of that ultimate professional, and
he's
and I
the
just
ultimate
like
competitor. He's the
that.
ultimate,
Yeah,
and that's what Pete wants and looks for when he finds ball players. Is
right.
like, who is the guy, just clawing and scratching and trying to make the play by any means necessary. And Trey fits that scenario. All of our guys do, or they wouldn't be here playing for us.
Right.
But Mike Jack in particular, he had one of the best off seasons I'd seen out of all those guys. And so did on the other side, Jake Bobo. This is a guy that ran like a 4.9.
No,
Yeah.
Might be
but
the only receiver in the history of the game I'm faster than in a 40.
There
yeah,
you
right.
go.
Hey,
But
just go
he
ahead.
knows how to set people up. His routes are silky smooth, like getting blind spots and set people up. So when the DB turns his hips, he's transitioning into his route. Like those little things, it's hard to teach that. He sees the game from a different perspective, and that's what makes him so great.
So, Lofa,
Yeah,
I got a
the
question
four.
for you
So
about Jay.
sorry, real quick, just touching on that. The 40, I love watching the 40. Right, it's sexy, but it's just
Yeah,
they put just so much weight on it, right? Like who is the
a
dude
lot.
who's got the record? The
John Ross, isn't
John
it?
Ross, right? I
John
mean,
Ross,
there's an example of a guy
Washington.
that really, I mean, he got injured and stuff, but
Yeah,
didn't do much in the league. And then like a guy that comes to my mind, like an Anquan Bolden type dude, right? Like not the fastest 40, but just an absolute beast, right? So,
savage.
I mean, Bobo's time is pretty slow, right? But again, little things that he does, it makes him successful and that can put himself in certain positions to succeed. So, there's sometimes way too much weight on the 40. Like guys can lose rounds in the
Yeah.
draft, right?
I mean, I never thought I was a first round pick. I mean, I thought my stats and everything looked good, but you run a 4.85,
Right.
everybody you'll be lucky to go third round. But we were coming off of two national titles, had a lot of success. So scouts were at our games and they're like, "Oh, this guy makes a lot of plays." Like
Yeah.
so, luckily, I got noticed by all the success we were having as a team. But yeah, a lot of it, yeah, Bolden was, I think he was a third round pick. And that was one of the toughest fucking dudes I ever played in my life. I mean, the dude had his mouth wired shut on the hit against the Jets back, was that 2008 or 9? He
Huh.
came back 2 weeks later with his shit was still wired shut. He had probably lost 10 pounds, probably got faster, but like you can't eat anything. You're not keeping any weight on.
Yeah.
But I mean, just to be out there with your mouth wired shut 2 weeks after you just got knocked the fuck out. He's I would say his numbers are probably close to Hall of Fame, if not definitely
Sure.
Hall of Fame. And in terms of like players, there's this kind of like little. I wish there was like a players Hall of Fame because like guys like him, I don't. Torrey Holt's not in yet, is he?
Mm.
He should
No.
have been
Oh,
in.
yeah.
He should have been in.
Crazy.
Fred Taylor, that was the best running back I ever played in my life, hands down. And I played every everyone in my division. I believe is a Hall of Famer. Should be. Sean Alexander, from
Mm.
my own teammate, should be Hall of Famer. 115 touchdowns, over 10,000 yards. Edge James is a Hall of Famer. Frank Gore will be a Hall of Famer. Steven Jackson should be a Hall of Famer. Fred Taylor,
Yeah.
that was the fucking stuff of nightmares. I mean, I ain't scared of nobody, but, but like I'm not catching him if he breaks loose. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't give a shit about getting run over. I mean, that shit happens. But like when a guy breaks loose and you're like, oh fuck, I can't catch that guy. That's a problem.
Right. So
Yeah,
when
for
I look
sure.
at Bobo Lofa, I look at one of your ex teammates from your Super Bowl run, and he gives me
Joey J.
flashbacks. Yeah, Joe Jaravicious is who he literally reminds me
All
of.
right.
I don't
Watching
know
him
if he
run
was
his
that
routes
good.
and everything. He's not the fastest guy, but somehow he's always open.
No, you know what? Like he reminds me similar. But I mean, I said it as soon as you said reminds you of. I'll never forget. We were playing the Giants, and they had like a first round rookie on him, and I'll never forget. It was a close game, and Joey comes inside. And he's like, "I got a fucking rookie on me. Just throw me the ball." The next play, he goes down and just mosses the guy for a 50-yard touchdown.
Wow.
And Joey never ran out of bounds. Never. I remember when he was with the Cleveland Browns 2 years later, and I'm running, and I just smoke him out of bounds. And I pulled up just because I knew we could get a flag, but he dipped the shoulder down into me, like, come get it. Like, he was about that action. But
That's awesome.
great hands. I mean, and then that was him and Bobby Ingram at Penn State back in the day too. And we had both those guys on that Super Bowl team.
Yeah.
When DJ got hurt, Joey J stepped into a role that, I mean, he should have been in any team in the league would have been lucky to have him. That's how good he was. And he just brought an element of toughness. And I think that's what, we all loved about Joey J.
Yeah. Hey, real quick, we don't want to keep you too much longer, man. We appreciate you coming on. Pete, another Pete question here.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think he retires at the end of the year? You think this could be it, or we got a few more years of Pete? I mean, obviously it's been talked about. There's been some rumors. Obviously, I can tell you don't think it's going to happen, but maybe you don't have to answer. But what do you think? How many more years? And he's in great shape. He's got tons of energy. He could go to his 80s. But what do you think? Like, what, based on what you're hearing?
What rumor mills you been hanging out in, bro? Are you starting rumors? Because
Nah.
He ain't never gonna put it down. You're gonna have to force him out, and you're gonna have to force him to have not just one, but a couple bad seasons to where the organization doesn't feel like the message is getting through. Because, I mean, we're always in contention. And I know, it's been 10 years since we won the last one, and everybody likes to bring that bullshit up. Well, before that, we hadn't won one. And it's so, I think about it from all perspectives, as a player, as a coach, because I coached the game for 2 years, and then also as a fan. So I can have appreciation from all different perspectives. It's not his time to give it up. I mean, Pete didn't learn, Pete didn't forget how to coach. And I think that's what all the games passing by. If anything, he's only more connected to this new generation of players with a different mindset that, I mean, you see it with the transfer portal and everything. That's what I'm trying to tell these kids. I'm trying to warn them. I'm like, yo, when you get to the league, you tell a team you want to trade, that might be the last time you ever play football. And dude, to deal with all those personalities and all, I think Pete's the perfect man for the job to do that. Because he understands people on the level that they're at. And this is way different from just football, X's and O's. I think he has an appreciation for where the human being, the kid, is at in his journey. So I think it would be the wrong move to just say, even if we don't make the playoffs, he's done. The game's passed him by. That is not the case with Pete and football.
So I got a question then, Lofa. If Pete stays, like you're saying, you think he's going to stay and kick around. And I know that our coordinators are still new. Like Hurt's only been doing it for 2 years. Waldron's been doing it for 3. I only kind of give Waldron 2 years because he did have the one weird year with Russell that very first year that he showed up. There's been things thrown out by Rappaport and all these high up NFL guys that Dan Quinn, who you got to play under, would be the theoretical heir apparent, which is why he hasn't taken the Denver job and these other ones. He's kind of passed them off and stayed in Dallas as the DC. Do you see a situation, or could you see a situation where, say, Pete's contract does end in 2025, so if they don't re-up him.
Is it 2025?
2025 is the end of his deal, and Schneider's is 2027.
Yeah.
Where Pete goes next year and says, okay, you know what? Maybe Pete does decide I'm going to retire at the end of my deal when it's done. Bring in Dan Quinn as DC, kind of like what happened with Jim Mora when Mike left and before you got Pete. Jim showed up in 2008 as your DC and then kind of rolled into that head coaching job the following year. that possibly be a situation you think? Like, do you think Pete will have a say in who comes in to replace him?
No, and I don't think. I think, yeah, he's earned that, right? But I don't think Pete retires. That's the whole where I'm coming from.
Right.
I think if you let Pete go, there's going to be several suitors. So I would be more apt to think that, and then it would never happen because he's our only Super Bowl winning coach. But where a trade could happen, like New England, like I know Bill B ain't gonna bow out. He ain't gonna say I'm
Right.
done.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he's like Bill's gonna, tell them, hey, either trade me or pay me 20 million next year to not coach for you, and I'll go coach for somebody else. And there's gonna be several teams lined up like, hey, Bill, total control. Fucking go do it.
Right.
And I think the same thing is for Pete. I see the same, storybook ending. Like it's, he holds all the cards in terms of that. Whether he coaches Seattle, I don't know. That's up to the brass, right?
Right.
But this will not be the end of Pete. Whether it's NFL, and honestly, if he goes to college, I promise you, he wins 3 or 4 national titles in the next like 6-7 years. If he goes back to college, I really believe it. I promise you.
No, that makes, like how you said, how he's connected to that generation and those players, the NIL now and everything. Yeah.
And this is his second time doing it, so now he knows even better what he's looking for in terms of kids leaving high school, making the transition to college. Because I've heard a lot of other coaches, like Coach Prime's, like, I'm not taking but 4 kids from high school. The rest are going to be portable. And I understand that. I'd rather play with not the worst, but medium to good 22-year-olds than all the best 18-year-olds. It's just we got grown-ass men versus kids. Like that makes sense, when you're talking about we're going to go to battle. So, and then also the 22-year-olds, they got their shit together, man. They've been in the system for a couple of years. They know how to handle stuff. They're going to class. They're doing all the workouts and everything they need to do to show up on Saturday. So, but I think, Pete, he's in control of his own destiny, whether it's with the Seahawks or not. I don't see one where he's forced out.
Okay.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like I was more like I love everything he's done here. I was just maybe thinking maybe he might choose to maybe walk away. But if that's where I was coming from. But maybe, like I said, I don't know. He could be here another 5-6 years, and
I'll say this much. He built an absolute fucking machine here for 10 years.
Yeah.
With the number 1 defense and Marshawn Lynch, a strong running game. Russell Wilson was awesome. He is going to be in the Hall of Fame. I firmly believe it. I don't care what's going on in Denver and how, he's just got the cleared bench. He's still going in the Hall of Fame for everything he's done. He's had an insane career.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people forget how we won the Super Bowl. We held the number 1 offense in the history of the game to 8 points. And so, like, it's just been struggling to get back to that point. A power running game and then a dominant defense. We've gotten close at times, but then, we've had key injuries. 17, like, what was it? Earl, Sherm, and Cam got hurt. Like 3 of the members of the league, boom. 3 of the founding members got hurt. It's just, and then Sherm left, Marshawn left. Like, it's hard to keep that thing going. You have windows. You really do have windows. And so we'll see. But I've got faith and total faith in John and Pete, as a tandem, going forward.
So I got a question then off of that, Lofa, one of the last ones we've got for you. With that being said, like when we had that Super Bowl run, they had a quarterback that was dynamic on a rookie deal where they could spend money elsewhere. Geno's due $31 million next year. Do you see them possibly looking at this roster? They've traded for Leonard Williams. Hopefully they re-sign him. Looking at this year's draft and getting a QB?
Yeah, Leonard's getting re-signed. I guarantee you that you don't give up, what was it, second and a fifth?
round.
Yeah. Well, you can't
You know-
say that. We did do Sheldon Richardson. Don't forget that. We gave up a second in Jermaine and we never re-signed him.
Well, second and a fifth.
Second, and I think we gave up a second. What did we give up for Sheldon? It was a second and second and Jermaine Curse is what we gave up. That was the other piece of that one.
Ooh, man.
And we didn't re-sign Sheldon, so that was the other time.
Was that a deadline deal or was that a?
No, that was after training camp in 2017.
Okay, so that was a training camp deal.
Yeah.
And like I'm just thinking, from a GM perspective, it's like, okay, we're gonna have a full year with him. This one, we're gonna give up a lot because we feel like he's the missing piece. He's played his ass off.
Oh, 100%. I love
balling. We love him.
So, and I don't remember what Sheldon did. I don't. He had a great run here. It was just
Yeah, it was
and he was a great player too.
Yeah.
But I think just in terms of the move at the time, I think Curse was Curse injured?
No, he broke his leg the end of that season or towards the end of that season with the Jets.
That year. Okay, his
Yeah.
first year. So I'll say this. John has always had good timing. He shipped me off. I tore my pec. I mean, the guy's got a crystal ball.
Yeah.
And you can't argue with
wish
the
he would've
Russell
just
deal.
told-
Like I love Russell.
Oh,
but he shipped
man.
him off and
I wish he would have just told me to retire.
Yeah.
Right. That's awesome.
But I'm just saying, it's always better to be a year too soon than a year too late.
Yeah.
Is kind of the general consensus in terms of making those decisions. And that's just bad luck breaking a leg, though. So my heart goes out to Curse, man. I thought it was before the trade and coming off of injury. But yeah, but just the designation of the time of the trade
makes a difference. Yeah.
it to me signals something different. So, okay, we're gonna get a full year, get to really know this guy. Whereas this one, we're like, hey, it's only gonna be half a year, but if he plays his ass off, we gave up 2 futures that we've been hitting in the 2nd through 5th round.
Yeah.
Like we've been hitting. So like these are important picks. And so I don't see a scenario where we don't re-sign him. And I think he's on the wrong side of 30. I think he's like 31. So I think that makes the price tag a little cheaper.
Right.
But we'll see. It's we'll see. It just comes down to when they sit down together as a unit, really watch the film together one more time, say what our strengths and weaknesses are, and how he fits in the scheme going forward. I think that's really what it comes down to. But yeah, great questions, fellas. Look at you guys.
Hey, man. Yeah, we appreciate you coming on, man. Just hanging out with us for an hour now. So appreciate your time. What besides the podcast, what else do you got going on? Are you coaching right now?
I was coaching my kids' flag football team. We lost in the semi or in the championship. I want to take blame for it, but I'm going to take blame for it because that's what good does. It was 4th and 20, and I was like, everybody get back. And no one got back. And they just bombed one right over our heads. And I was like, just get back.
Yeah.
But it was just a fun experience. It was awesome watching them grow.
That's wicked.
As players, as competitors, human beings, everything. I got a cannabis farm, 1937 Farms. I have a CBD company, Zone and CBD. I have a podcast, Take 12 Podcast, where you get your audio, and it's also on YouTube. And then I just released a beer. We just got into Lumen Field.
Nice.
51 Savage.
I like it. I'll have to try some.
Yeah, it's a nice Pilsner.
Nice.
5.1%.
Okay.
And yeah, so I got a lot of things in the works, and just loving life and grateful to be here, man.
That's awesome, man. So sorry, the beer there, is that only available at Lumen, or you got
Well, no, I think we're in the works to talk to other venues, but it's a small brewery out of Kirkland. It's called Savage Brewing Company. I just happened to I was at a party. One of my buddies he was doing like kind of shit, I don't know what you call it. He had his little like real estate show, and he's like, do some behind the scenes. And so I was just like, all right, hey everybody, we're having a party here, and I just panned around the tap room, and I saw this handle, and it was the only white handle just standing out in all the colors and everything, and it just said Savage down the middle, and I was like, I don't know what that is, but I'm drinking it. I like to believe I'm a savage.
There you
So
go.
I went over and I poured myself a beer. It was one of the best beers I ever had. And then I don't know, they got tagged in the story, and like somehow they're like, yo, you come here, we'll make you a beer. And so I was like, all right. So I went over there and they made me a Pilsner, and it's amazing. And so yeah, Loon had it at the what tailgate was it? The Ticketmaster tailgate, right where G Scott plays his little show before because they got in Touchdown City.
Okay.
So I walked by G Scott with double fist. I was like, hey, what up, bro?
Nice.
That's awesome.
Cool, man. Yeah, like I said, we appreciate you chopping it up with us, and and we'd love to have you back maybe in the future. And yeah, so awesome, man.
Let's come back for draft time. Break down some prospects.
Let's definitely do it. Sounds good. All right, Lofa.
Stay blessed.
All right, man.
Thanks,
Take care.
Lofa. See ya.